The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. Ben, last night, what you described yesterday as the biggest game in NBA history went down.
I said the biggest game of the season so far.
Between Oklahoma City and the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland, a place where the Cavs have only lost once all year, which is pretty wild. But a really thrilling game. The Cavs came out on top. However, Donovan Mitchell did not shoot the ball.
He did not play well at all.
No. But Cleveland still won. And we were talking off the air. We saw two really great teams. I mean, those are two really good teams.
I was pretty struck, and I get that they don't have Chet Holmgren right now, who is their tallest player. But Chet isn't necessarily big.
He's not a big. No.
He's not like a big. It was pretty amazing to watch because this is exactly how the Thunder lost in the playoffs last year, playing against Derek Lively and the big Mavericks front court. They just look so small against the Cavaliers. And the Cavaliers are unique. They play two guys who are 6'10" or 7 feet tall. Evan Mobley's a big. He's 6'10". And Jared Allen's really big. I mean, he's probably 6'11" or 7 feet tall and is super athletic. They're both really athletic. So
Allen plays huge.
He
So
does
does
big.
Mobley, but Allen really plays big.
So they just looked big. And even though they have a minuscule backcourt with Darius Garland, who's maybe 6 feet tall, and Donovan, who might be 6'1", they're big enough in the front court that they made this run of 6'3", 6'5", 6'8" guys that Oklahoma City has look really small. So when they would turn the corner trying to get to the paint or have hit a guy cutting to the basket, they couldn't get a shot off because there were two guys down there who were ready to block their shot. And it's what I love about basketball. And it's almost hard to keep up is the difficult part if you're a fan who's not watching it every night. It's just like, you can't solve it. Everyone thinks they're going to solve it. It's like, oh, well, we're going to get a bunch of 6'8" wings who shoot threes. It's like, well, then you got to rebound. So you get a rebound. And what's kind of ironic is neither of these teams rebound particularly well. But in a game that's going to matter, some point you're going to need some size. And the last possession of the game, or like with a minute and a half left, could go look at the play-by-play. I think the Cavaliers had one possession where they grabbed 3 offensive rebounds in a row. It's like, regardless if they score at the end, they've killed 50 seconds off the clock in a 2-minute game. It's a perfectly run 4-minute drill. 2-minute drill, not to score, to end the game. It was pretty incredible. So I liked what I saw from Cleveland last night. I still have some questions about, you can still see Donovan's desire to, I've got to make a play. And, even Richard Jefferson late was like, this is Donovan Mitchell time. I was like, no, it's not. They're up by 3. Have Donovan pass the ball. Have him be a decoy. Make everyone think it's Donovan Mitchell time and then give the ball to Jared Allen on the lob or Evan Mobley for a little tiny push shot in the paint. That's the decoy where Donovan's probably more valuable than ever. And he still hit a big 3. Credit to Donovan. He hit a big 3, but no, I don't want Donovan late in that game trying to create a Donovan shot because that's where they're going to be disadvantaged. That's not their advantage in that game is 6'1" Donovan Mitchell going up against, Alex Caruso didn't play, but Cason Wallace, who's a great defensive player, or Shea, who's a good defensive player, or Lou Dort, who's an elite defensive player. No, I don't ever want to see Donovan have the ball in his hands trying to make something happen there. Give it to your bigs because that's been your edge all night. So I came away impressed with the Cavaliers, and I want to see if the Thunder, even if they get Chet, I think they need another big guy, another big body.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I absolutely think they need to get bigger.
A tough big guy.
But as far as I came out, actually less impressed with Cleveland.
Okay.
Because Oklahoma City did, I think, preview how to beat them, even though they didn't. And that's put a bigger guy on Donovan all of the time.
Yeah. And
all
the good teams in the East are going to be able to do it. The Knicks can't, but the Celtics will.
The Celtics will.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Knicks can't. Well, they can't. I mean, we saw that. Brunson, Mitchell.
Right. And they might just put Josh Hart on him, but there's enough pieces where I think the Cavs would beat the Knicks.
So you can take Donovan out of a game relatively easily, and then does he do what you're talking about and bang his head up against the defense over and over again?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Kenny Atkinson is a pretty good coach. And believe it or not, I think when he wants to be, Donovan Mitchell is fairly coachable.
I think he absolutely is.
So if Kenny's smart enough to say, no, Donovan, I know that you want to be the hero, but that's not what is best for this. That's not how we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
then I think more of Cleveland. I don't know if Kenny's going to say that, or I don't know if Donovan's going to listen. I don't think that's a guarantee either way. But if Donovan does take it upon himself, like he said a bunch of times, I'm the best player on this team. I got to do this. If he takes that attitude into the playoffs, they're going to lose.
And by the way, has been an extremely prolific postseason player in his career.
Yes, he has.
His postseason averages, Donovan Mitchell, he averages 28 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and he shoots 44% from the floor and 36% from three. So here's the thing. It's not that he can't be a great playoff player. He can. We've seen it. He averaged 30 points in 2 different playoff series, or 2 different playoff runs, not just series, but runs. He's had huge moments. He averaged 29 points a game last year in 2 rounds. Is he okay going 4 for 15 3 games in a row because he has Josh Hart on him or Lou Dort on him or whoever it is, Derek White on him, and he says, fine. Sometimes Justin Jefferson has to draw double coverage, so Jordan Addison's open. And that's good. You know what I mean? That's how the Vikings are going to win this game. Justin Jefferson's not going to get 4 catches. He's not going to get 4 targets. But he's drawing so much defensive attention that it's okay, everyone else can eat. Is Donovan Mitchell okay at that point? That's a maturity level, and I don't know if he is.
He wasn't when he was here.
He was not. No, he was not. Because Boyan could go for, I saw Boyan go for 30 in the first half of a playoff game.
Well, here's the thing. He needed the spotlight of the playoffs so badly, he forced himself back in while injured and had the trainers fired in the process. So, if he's matured beyond that, and that was such a weird situation, and me above all else, I want players to play when they're able to play, but they eventually lost because he was hurt. Yeah. Or at least in part because he was hurt.
Yeah, because they played the Clippers in the second round, and he's limping around.
And he's limping around against the Clippers, and they lost.
Yep.
So,
he still had big games, but he's limping around. He can barely walk on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah.
And maybe the overall theme of this conversation about Cleveland and Donovan, for that matter, is what players are players willing to do what it takes for the team to win?
Yeah.
And in basketball, that is far from a given. And honestly, in the playoffs, when the other team is guarding Donovan with Jaylen Brown, and he goes, what'd you say, 4 of 15?
4 of 15.
That's probably pretty good. Is he all right with that?
Right.
Or does he go 4 for 22 and they get run in the fourth quarter because he's running into triple teams with that spin move over and over again?
Yeah, he says, I know I don't have it through the first 3 quarters, but it's Donovan time.
But it's Donovan time.
I heard Richard Jefferson on the sideline say, this has to be Donovan Mitchell time, and I believed him.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. In fact, the best way for Cleveland to win probably is going to be for somebody else. Have Garland go cook the other team's point guard. Have Mobley. Imagine small balling Cleveland. I just give the ball to Mobley
absolutely
over and over again.
That's what they did throughout the first half, and they just dominated. Jared Allen had like 30 points last night.
Yep.
Jared Allen was awesome.
25.
Yeah, he was great because it was just like, you guys aren't big enough to guard us. And I love Jalen Williams, Cody Williams' older brother. He's awesome. He is 6'5".
Yeah.
So if he is guarding Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, he should be fried chicken. That dude's toast. There shouldn't be any chance for him to defend. So, again, that goes back to my question with Oklahoma City. Are they going to be big enough and have a body big enough? Which actually, and they don't have the contract. They have a lot of contracts and draft picks. Like, even a John Collins type would help them. Like, even just another 6'9" guy who's going to have the weight and act like John's tall. John's really big. He's way bigger than Jalen Williams. He's not as good as Jalen by any means, but like just having a big guy, even like if you wanted to do an end of your bench trade for like a cousin Drew, you call him Drew Eubanks, like that might help them. Yeah. As silly as it sounds, I think they need a little bit more size. I remember when Donovan got traded to the Cavs, and I'm sure I could find the tweet if I wanted to, but I remember thinking, oh wow, this is a huge investment. They must believe Evan Mobley is going to be their best player in 3 years because you can't win a title with Donovan as your best player. I still believe that because
he's 6'1".
Yeah, nobody wins a title with. You could be the best 6'1" player in the world. You don't win if that's your best player. You just don't. So they need Evan Mobley to be what he was last night, and he might have been the best player on the floor if it wasn't Jared Allen. So it's like, can they lean into that, and will Donovan let it happen? It's a big question.
How did Oklahoma City exist without Hartenstein last year?
Yeah, it's crazy. But they got washed. They didn't get washed in the second round of the playoffs. But again, they didn't make it to the conference finals even.
But they are super flawed. Like that is a big time flaw.
It's an easy thing to overlook when, Like, I'm sure if you pull up NBA stats right now, I think they lead the league in steals, which, like, okay, so you're forcing all these steals and you're getting all these easy baskets. You watched the Jazz game in Oklahoma City where the Jazz turned it over like 25%.
Yeah.
They couldn't even get into their offense. It's like, well, that actually doesn't exist in the playoffs.
Right.
Right? You could do that to Keontae George and Isaiah Collier when they're in their first 100 games of their NBA career. But when you're playing Luka Doncic, you're not going to force him into turnovers or Kyrie into turnovers every game. And then when you don't and you can't rebound, it's you defending Hans Olsen.
Yep.
It's like, well, you might be more skilled than Hans is.
Honestly,
You are not 215, 225 pounds and 6'6". So
No,
he's
I
just
am
going to
not.
lay it up over and over. And that's what they did.
So I wonder, because Dagnaught's a really good coach. Is Oklahoma City Mike Leach? Is Oklahoma City Washington State, where they play a really great system. They've got a really great coach, but they are significantly flawed. And when the other team is good enough to take advantage of that flaw, they're tostada for sure.
Yep.
And Hartenstein fixes that a little bit, but I mean, Chet coming back doesn't fix that because he's Jared Allen's going to push him around all day. So it's not like, I mean, yeah, they have to add another big. I'd trade for Cousin Drew tomorrow if I were them, but I don't know if that puts them to a title, but at least then they can put somebody else in with some size when they're just getting steamrolled.
And Kristaps was by no means elite last year in the playoffs. In fact, he didn't play a lot of it. He was hurt. He came back, I think, just for the finals. And he averaged 12 points and 4 rebounds. So it wasn't necessarily that he was playing huge, but he is 7'4". Like Kristaps Porzingis is enormous. And you have him and Al Horford, and all of a sudden you have two real bigs on your team.
Well, and they're so huge in the front court.
And then they're huge in the front court. You've got two 6'8", 6'9" guys. Like they're big.
If you can't get the ball to Jared Allen, then he can't be dunking on you, which Boston is, I mean, they're huge.
Yeah, they are huge.
And Jason Tatum guards, and Jaylen Brown guards, and Drew Holiday guards.
And then the team before that one had Nikola Jokic, who is huge. He's 6'10". He's 260 pounds.
Yep.
You know, I do think that we love shooting, and I think shooting at times can be the end all be all in a lot of games. It's a real good shortcut. And I think late you're still going to want to have some big bodies. I think having some bigs is still going to be really important in the NBA, which again goes back to the added value of it's a good thing the Jazz didn't give up on Walker Kessler this offseason. And I really just don't believe he's on the trade market at all. I know every Laker fan thinks now they're going to trade for Walker. It's good the Jazz didn't trade him. And if you were, you would just need an enormous, enormous trade package to get him, which is crazy for a guy who probably makes $3 million a year. But yeah, I just wouldn't give up on Walker because we are starting to trend back towards some of these big guys.
Oh, man, if the Jazz move him, I hope they don't move him to the Lakers.
No.
All his progress this year would go straight down the tubes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the things he does.
Yeah.
He does things well that could help, of course, because he's a winning player.
But he'd be coming off the bench, and he'd be LeBron's teammate. And anybody who's
it's just hard to be LeBron's
teammate gets worse.
And he can set good screens and he can rebound and he can block shots. Like, he can still do the things he does well here, but I think a lot of the charm would be gone.
And I don't think the sommelier is going to put him in a position to succeed or further his development.
Yeah, don't go there.
No,
and they're not going to trade him. Walker is going to be here in a month from now after the trade deadline.
The sommelier would want him to do what all the writers wanted him to do. Well, you step out and start shooting some threes.
Yeah, right.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs.
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Woo! Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson
1, 2, 3, move it.
on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you to join JJ and Alex coming up on Friday from 3 to 6 at Advanced Window Products at the Salt Lake Home Show at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. Ben, real quick, what's this guy's name? Jake Gadden. Probably Gadden. He's a sports anchor for a TV affiliate in Sacramento. Was doing a live hit from the newsroom, Ben, to talk about the Raiders firing Antonio Pierce.
Yeah, which we have not talked about yet.
Yeah, we can jump into that. And he, did the live hit. Can you see what's wrong with this picture, Ben? So there's Ben seeing the live hit from the newsroom.
Well, it looks like he's on Facebook, but
yeah, he's on Instagram actually.
oh, okay, he's on IG. Yeah,
He's on Instagram, and yeah, that picture on a computer in the background.
yeah.
A workplace computer.
I read the I couldn't see it because I have bad eyeballs.
Is a lingerie picture of Rihanna.
Lingerie-clad Rihanna. Which who among us? But
and you know what? It's not like it's not pornography.
No,
she
it's
put
not.
it out. It's like she's marketing a line of lingerie or something like that. It's fairly innocuous. But you'd think before doing a live hit from the newsroom,
you would check what is up. And look, okay, off the top of your head. And look, I actually don't follow her, but I guess I'm not surprised that a lot of her content would be something I would not want captured in the background of a work photo. How many followers do you think Rihanna has on Instagram?
oh, it's got to be millions, right?
Give me a number. I know I hate this game too.
Well, I'm not that familiar with the Snap Talk. 10 million?
150 million.
Yeah.
So, like, everybody follows Rihanna. So, yes, the fact that he follows Rihanna is not a crime in itself. But
No. He shouldn't lose his job or anything. I don't think this guy was actually doing anything all that
But
inappropriate.
I also like that it's not. So when you pull up Instagram, whether it's on your phone or on desktop or your laptop or whatever, it's a grid view. Like there's 9 photos you can see or 6 photos you can see. He has picked a photo that he is looking at. I gotta get a closer look at this.
Hey, let's really zoom in on that.
see some more
I gotta
details,
I gotta see what Rihanna's up to.
So
But then to go,
Maybe he's doing some early Valentine's shopping.
Yeah, maybe.
Antonio
Not at
Pierce.
work.
Antonio Pierce has been fired today
That's
from the radio.
scumbag.
Let's go to Jake in the newsroom, who has the latest. That's so funny. What is your excuse if you're this guy? You're like, oh, it's my first day. I don't know.
I was trying to find her halftime performance at last year's Super Bowl, or whenever she did it. Did she do it last year? She was pregnant, right?
Like 2 years ago, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, and be like, I want to see how that would compare to what's
Yeah.
coming up. Who's doing it this
They
year?
told me 11:45, not 11:30.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Honestly, I'd be like, Valentine's Day is coming up. I was looking for something spicy for the missus.
So, anyways,
But
it's a
just,
toughie.
Just exit out of there,
Just exit out.
or bring up ESPN or something.
Hey, pal, who's taking the photo?
well, that
or-
was a live shot.
Sure, a live shot, whatever. Who's doing me a favor? Like, you and I both know a very funny story of like you got to check your background. You got to know what's in the background of your shot. It's part of the job of being a cameraman. Like, cameraman can do this guy some favors, and usually that's kind of a buddy shot, unless he's I can't remember what the title is.
They could just have a fixed camera in the newsroom.
They may
honestly.
just have. They probably do. And
But
a lot
even
of these
then,
guys have to shoot their own stuff now.
Even then, a producer in his ear could be like, "Hey, Jake, why don't you clean that up before we come to you?"
Did you see? Who is it? David Muir? Is that
Who, the CBS guy or whatever?
the CBS guy. He's catching some flack right now because he was doing a live hit at the fires in Los Angeles, and he's wearing like a fire uniform. Like, of course he does. Like, they send people out in the middle of the hurricanes, and he turns and he had the clothespins like to make the jacket look tighter. It's like you're not in an emergency situation, buddy. If you have time to be like, does my jacket that I pulled off of a firefighter fit me well enough that is this slimming? Is this jacket still slimming? It's kind of the same thing. It's like you got to be aware of your surroundings and the timing of it all. So yeah, that's a fail on what's this guy's name?
Oh, I don't know.
Graydon?
Gadden, something like that.
Gadden.
Jake Gadden. I think. Listen, I find it hilarious sending television people into the middle of disasters because of the reasons you're talking about, and like, the the shot that they're doing is such like a wide shot.
Yeah.
It looks like you're in the middle of everything, but yet you're like
Right.
6 miles away.
Right.
I always thought, like, listen, you can just get some camera footage, have the reporter on the scene talk over the phone,
Right.
and everything's going to be okay.
Everything will be
Do
just
you
fine.
need Anderson Cooper, like, in the middle of the hurricane? I don't think that's necessary.
Not
now,
nec-
do
no.
I find that funny? Sure. But necessary? Not really. No. And then the news people, like, what's his name? Brian Williams. Didn't he make up, like, the fact that he was somewhere where it's like,
He said
haven't,
yeah, at war. Yeah.
haven't you been enough places that you don't really need to say, like,
You have the authority already.
no, one of the ones was he saw people floating by during Katrina or something, and it's like, dude, you weren't even there till the next day, and the hotel you stayed at is like,
Yeah. Notoriously said he got shot at in a helicopter.
yeah, it's like, what do you need, dude?
The pilot's like, no, you didn't.
Right. So then if we just don't send any of the bozo anchors anywhere, then we don't have that problem. Anderson, I think you can do this one in the studio, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll send
from
somebody down there on the phone that can say, what's going on. We can get some B-roll rolling because this is the internet day and age now where there's videos everywhere, and I think we'll be fine. Anywho, close your Rihanna pics before you do a live shot on TV. Someone tell old Jeremiah and Sam next time they do let's go live from the newsroom, Sam Farnsworth, make sure that's closed.
I'm sure they're doing fine. I'm sure they're on top of it. But yeah,
I would assume most people would be
check
on
your
top of
background.
it. All right, Ben, I predicted earlier in the show that I think the Jazz actually win tonight against the Heat. What do you think of my
I don't think
my
the Jazz
scorcher?
I don't think the Jazz sweep the Miami Heat. I think the Jazz understand part of their goals. I won't say responsibility because I don't think it's their responsibility, but it's part of what they have laid out. And look, the truth is, when you are 9-26 and it's January 9th and you have no chance of making the playoffs, unfortunately, if you're a fan who wants to watch the team win games and you're not just okay with the young players developing or whatever, the goal should be to lose. It should be. Like, it is the best way to add the next best player to your team, is to increase your lottery balls, et cetera, et cetera. So the Jazz should not be trying to win games, even as they play this relatively light stretch of schedule, which is unusual for a team that's going to finish with the fourth or third worst record in the NBA. This is a light stretch. Miami, you're catching them at a vulnerable time. You're at Phoenix. Phoenix is terrible right now. You're home against Brooklyn. Brooklyn just got crushed by 30 last night. You're playing Charlotte. Charlotte randomly, I think, won their last game.
Yeah, they beat somebody good. They beat
Philly.
Oh, I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, they beat somebody good.
So, but Charlotte's bad. And then you play New Orleans twice.
Oh, they beat the Suns. I don't know if the Suns are good.
Okay, but yeah.
They beat the Suns.
But to the point where you're going to play the Suns and, both of these teams are clearly beatable. If you're worried about lottery balls at the end of the year, you just want to lose these games. And we talked about the Johnny Juzang, Isaiah Collier. It wasn't even Isaiah who was the main point guard at the time. But Drew Eubanks, Micah Potter, Patty Mills was the point guard. Like, the lineup the Jazz were playing was not designed to give them the best chance to beat the Atlanta Hawks in the third quarter. They were not saying, let's put enough distance up on this Atlanta team that we can coast to a victory if everything goes wrong in the fourth quarter. In fact, they did quite the opposite. They said, how do we make sure that if we actually accidentally hit a couple of shots in the fourth or we play our starters late in the fourth, we don't win this game? That seemed like the approach from my perspective. I think you're going to see a lot of that. And I think you're going to see more of it for the rest of the season than we have because they did win 2 games in Miami and Orlando.
I think Hardy is going to get the green light not to do any of that.
Against Miami.
Against Miami. I think he's actually going to be able to coach to win. Now, he's not going to have a full team, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see necessarily those kind of lineups, at least for long periods of time, because I actually think they're going to say, okay, well, you go ahead and win this one if you can.
You think Pat Riley calls Danny Ainge and says, Danny, I'm never in Utah, but grandkids wanted to ski, so I'm out here anyways. Will you get me a couple of tickets to the game so I can watch the Heat? And Danny says, absolutely. I got you, Pat. The tickets are going to be right there waiting for you. And then when Pat comes to the building, they say, we've never heard of you. And he absolutely sets him up for failure. You think he's going to do the rope-a-dope on Pat Riley just to embarrass him?
Do you know how long those two have not cared for one another? It
And,
goes
like, this-
back to the 80s.
You are not making this up.
No.
This is a real thing that goes back to, yes, Pat Riley of the Lakers and Danny Ainge of the Celtics. Then to Pat Riley of the Knicks, I would imagine, and whatever Danny was doing at that time, and he'd been all over. And then Pat Riley as the president or general manager,
The
or
Heat.
whatever his title is at the Heat, stealing Ray Allen from Danny Ainge of the Miami or of the Boston Celtics. Like, you are right. There's a real feud here to the point where your guy, Brian Windhorst, like, has talked about, like, you guys think Danny Ainge would ever do a solid for Pat Riley on a trade to help his team get closer to a championship? Like, it won't happen. I don't know. I've certainly never talked to Danny about it, but there is rumors that there's real bad blood there.
But here's where I would disagree with you in your scenario with the tickets. I don't think that he would stiff them at the door. I don't think that would happen. I think the tickets that they would get would land Pat right next to David Locke. We got you a spot. It's right here. You're going to love it. It's right next to our broadcast. It's right next to David.
Yeah.
You're going to have a great time.
And then you beat the pants off him.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
then you bring him in, and then you beat him by 25.
Because I do think that that Coach Hardy is coaching to lose in a lot of these games, for the reason that you're saying. I mean, or I guess not reason. You laid out how he's doing it. I think that is true. I bet he gets the green light tonight.
Certainly seemed to in Miami on Saturday, and they won 136-100. They beat them by 36 points.
Absolutely got the green light that night. Put the hammer down. You noticed when Bryce Sensabaugh got hot, you know what happened, Ben? He stayed in the game.
They played him, yeah.
He stayed in the
they played
game. Oh, Bryce made a couple. Let's cool him off. Let's bring him over here.
So I'm curious about this stretch for the Jazz. Miami tonight, Phoenix, Brooklyn, Charlotte, back-to-back New Orleans. Then you do start to get a couple of tougher games, but there is a Washington at home on January 23rd. You're going to beat Washington. You could try not to. They're going to win a couple games here. They're going to be up at 11 wins or so going into the end of the month. And then trade deadlines, I think, on February 6th. And then it really can all fall apart.
You know what? They don't have their cooler this year, though. Do you have good gambling luck?
I've never gambled, so the perfect gambling
Christian,
luck.
do you have
Never
good
lost.
gambling luck, bad gambling luck?
No, I stopped because I was bad.
I've got bad gambling luck, too. My friends used to call me the cooler. Have you heard those stories of Vegas? Like, they'll take people with
Yeah.
bad luck and sit them down at hot tables to cool it off. I don't know if that works, but they would do it.
There's a movie, right, with William H. Macy?
Is
called
it?
The Cooler?
It's called The Cooler. Yeah. The Cooler. The Jazz had the best cooler in the league last year.
Yeah.
An old hot dog.
Yep.
Like, you want to cool the team off? They played a little too well? Get Hot Dog off the bench and get him in there.
They have Cody Williams.
Cody Williams is the cooler.
The hard thing for
I don't think
Cody,
he does enough to be the cooler.
That is the hard part, is that, like, Talon would take, if you didn't check him, he would take 22 shots a night.
in like 18 minutes.
He'd be like, great, I'm on the court. It's my time.
Hot Dog's time to
They're
shine.
putting me out here to
It's
do a
Talon Horton Tucker
It's
time,
Talon
baby.
time, baby. Yeah. That's what I'm here for. It's like, you're right. It is what you're here for, but it's not why you think you're here.
Yeah.
Cody actually does a lot of the right things, I think. Like, he's in the right spots. He just gets washed out of plays because he's so tiny.
Yeah.
Like, he's so thin still. He's tall, but he's thin. But I think he still gets washed out of plays. So, like, he will go for a loose, like, a rebound that 80% of the NBA would grab because he's in the right spot at the right time, which, by the way, is actually, I think, the hard part. But then just, like, someone just pulls it away from his hands.
Right.
Well, I'm stronger than you are because you're 20 years old and you're still coming into your body. And he will get there, but he's not there right now. So I think it is a little
So he
bit-
is the cooler.
I think there are games when the Jazz are close that they play Cody until the game is not close.
See, I think I would pick a different rookie for the cooler.
Okay. Do you think it's Flip? I think they play Flip a lot in games that they're not necessarily trying to win also. Because, I mean, Drew Eubanks is going to win you games accidentally. Because he will grab the rebound.
Flip is the fourth best big on the team.
Yeah.
By a ways.
Probably, yeah. Trying to think of by a ways. But yeah, he is. I mean, yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, John Collins is way better. Lowry's way better.
Oh,
Drew's
I
way better.
wasn't even counting John
And
Collins and Lowry.
Walker, yeah, right. Walker's way better.
Walker, Cousin Drew, and Micah Potter are all better than Kyle Filipowski.
Yeah, Micah might be.
Oh, I'd take Micah Potter. Who did Micah put it on when he actually got the start? The Knicks? I don't think Flip is capable of doing that.
He can get hot from three, and that's again, it's a real shortcut. Yeah, Micah can play. I don't think that's yes, Micah Potter today is a better player than Kyle Filipowski.
So, I think that might be the cooler.
And the nice thing is you can play all of them at once. You can play Isaiah, you can play Kyle Filipowski, and you can play Cody Williams all at the same time. And it is going to make it hard for the Jazz to win games. And you know what? It's still probably the right thing to do. You're getting these guys on the court to play.
I'm going to start paying more attention to plus minus so we can find out who the cooler is. I was wrong in the game against the Hawks. If we're going sheerly by plus minus, it was not Kyle Filipowski. In fact, he had the highest plus minus on the team.
He
plus 12 in 17 ineffective minutes.
He has more of those than you think, I think.
Who was the cooler? Oh, Johnny Juzang.
Johnny is
minus 17.
Johnny has had some tough stretches lately where his numbers are okay, but the Jazz have not been better when he's on the floor. Where, again, it looks like he does a couple of things, but it seems pretty lopsided when the lineups that he's in.
My friends used to get so mad at me because I'd sit down at a 21 table with them and they'd lose 4 straight hands.
We're doing great. We were doing great.
We were doing great. Then you sat down.
Filipowski is a weird little plus-minus darling, kind of. I think he has more games. He's over his last 3. Again, the Jazz won 2 of the last 3, so that makes sense. But he's plus 37 in the last 3 games for the Jazz.
On the season, Micah Potter is the plus-minus leader at 32.
I'd believe that.
Do you want to take a shot at who the last place is?
Jordan Clarkson.
Is it Isaiah?
Jordan Clarkson is second to last at minus 149. Keontae George is last place at minus 188.
He was one of the worst in the NBA last year as well. So,
all right, stay tuned. We'll wrap up Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
Joined now by Barry Trammell, sports columnist for the Tulsa World.
The advent of free agency throughout American sport has led to more parity. Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA. Maybe it won't in college football, but so far it has, and there's nothing in the past to suggest that it won't. I do think that this may be the new reality for the SEC and for everybody. Last place Arizona State in the preseason. Well, it turns out they were first. Indiana goes from nothing to the playoff. Oklahoma State and Utah picked 1 and 3 in the Big 12. They finished 15 and 16. People get good and get bad real quick, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. My early returns on the portal and NIL are positive. I think they've been good for college football.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
They got him made Jake's and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. Ben, I found my favorite story of the day.
Okay.
Even more than the dude with Rihanna in the background.
Okay.
Which is right up my alley.
That's a good one.
But get this. Well, let me ask you this. Do you have that little voice in your head that tells you when the jig is up?
Conscience?
No, but maybe you're trying to get away from, with something, or maybe you're telling a little white lie or something. I'm not even trying to imply anything nefarious necessarily.
Yes, but it's something you recognize.
You're okay,
yeah.
well, it's over, I guess.
Yeah.
I probably ought to,
I gotta wash these pants.
Yeah. Right. Well, this guy, I almost admire this guy. All right. Dateline Los Angeles, actually Orange County. A man named Keith Lawrence Middlebrook. He's 57 years old, Ben. He's a part-time actor.
Okay.
He was sentenced to 8 years and 2 months in federal prison and ordered to pay a $25,000 fine. Now, here is the story. This guy in 2020 claimed that he had a cure for COVID-19. That he had a medicine that was a cure for COVID-19. Now, now people gave him a bunch of money or whatever, and that's the fraud, obviously. But part of the story, Ben, is that he claimed that Magic Johnson was like the president of his company or
Okay.
involved in
All right.
an investor, like used Magic Johnson. Was a director and officer of his company.
All right.
So used Magic Johnson's name to legitimize himself as part of this scheme. Now, the other funny part is he got arrested in March of 2020.
Okay, early.
So COVID had been around for like 15 minutes, and this guy is already getting busted as a fraud.
Remember, everything shut down on like the 10th of March. Whatever it was, 13th of March, whatever.
So this guy's scam ran
like
for like
right on
30
it.
seconds.
I got the cure. Me and Magic.
Now, it obviously took a while for him to come to trial. And so he's been sentenced. But get this, Magic himself took time out of his day to go appear at this guy's trial to testify that I've never seen or met this guy ever in my life. This guy, I don't know who he is. I've never been associated. This is literally the first time I've ever seen this person in my entire life. So after this guy gets sentenced, and he gives a quote to the press and says, Magic Johnson is, quote, the biggest liar I have ever seen, unquote. And he says some Stanford doctor still says that he actually had a cure for COVID-19. So this guy's going down with the ship.
Yeah, the conscience or whatever never kicked in.
The jig is up like, okay, yeah, I don't know Magic Johnson. And yeah, I'm just stealing from people. No, this guy is like, no, dude, I know a doctor. And yeah, Magic and I had dinner 2 weeks ago. He's the biggest liar I've ever seen.
I will say this, in this guy's defense, Magic is not the worst celebrity to just like pick and say he has your back. Because A, he invests in a lot of things. And Magic strikes me as the type of guy who, if you were to be like, hey, Magic, I heard you were doing this thing. You were a part of the COVID cure. Magic might be like, yeah, absolutely I was. Not knowing what you're talking about because Magic has held a lot of jobs that he's not qualified for.
Oh, yeah,
and
okay.
Magic might believe that just like, yeah, absolutely, that's the thing we're doing.
And one thing about Magic, and you know, if you talk to people that know Magic, he is like a genuinely warm person and does like to be liked.
Yes.
And so you could see, going along with whatever in the conversation because he's just that kind of dude.
Right. So it's not the worst.
I would doubt this guy has ever met Magic Johnson.
Probably not.
A guy with the gall that was days into the pandemic would be like, actually, I found the cure.
Even
and
Magic
I'd like
Johnson,
to sell it to you.
Like Magic's most famous recent moment is him, the little voice coming out when he said, I don't want to be the Lakers GM anymore, like very famously.
Like,
it's like
the jig is up.
He
I'm
realized,
terrible.
I'm bad at this and I shouldn't be doing it.
I'm out of here. I'm doing damage to my legacy. Yeah, that's a good point. Magic himself has that.
He has it.
Yeah,
He's
does.
shown it.
Absolutely. He did that with late night TV too.
Yes, he did.
Whoa, this is going terribly. I got to do something else. All right, stay tuned. Hans and Scotty G are coming up next. Talk to you tomorrow on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.